We all set to go?
We are all set to go.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm very glad that we could all get together. Everyone here at Groundswell really thrives on human connection, so it's been a long 9 months of separation, so I'm glad we could meet at least virtually today. I'm Jim Welsh. I'm the Executive Director of Groundswell Conservancy, and we wanted to spend some time thanking you for all your support that helps make all this great conservation possible in the last year. None of this happens without people like you, so we're really happy to report it. Sorry we can't do it in person. We normally have a wonderful party at the Lucier Family Heritage Center every December, but here we are. We'll make the best of it. Some technical notes. If you happen to drop out of the Zoom call, you can always get back in by just hitting the link that Heidi sent in the email. And as Heidi mentioned earlier, the chat box is the way that you can communicate with all the presenters, and we're going to use that for the door prizes. And you can also, if you're not that adept with Zoom and my picture's in your way, you can drag my picture around as you can the chat box as well. So next slide, please, Heidi. So in spite of that darn COVID virus that's caused so much hardship in the country, we still had a very good year for conservation. We helped protect 4 great places in the Dane County area. A 106-acre farm in Evansville, adjacent to the Evansville Wildlife Area, protects great soil and makes the land available for public hunting. 5 acres of land along Black Earth Creek, which I'll talk a little bit more in a minute. 84 acres of wetland, an incredible stretch of 6 Mile Creek in the town of Westport, right outside the village of Wanakee. And 63 acres we added to the Lower Bud Lake wetland complex just south of McFarland. Next slide, please. We also managed to still do a good job of connecting people to land, because that's one of the most important things we can all do, is make sure that people have strong connections to the land, and we can foster those in many ways. So we had to go virtual with some of our events as the summer progressed, but with good social distancing, our programs with kids at our Paisley Farm in Fitchburg continued, and our outdoor volunteering at our preserves went on for most of the year. We've had to cancel it twice, including right now. We had to limit the number of people who could attend, but we still got a lot of good land management done that way. Next slide, please. We welcome some fantastic new staff. We welcomed Liz Pelton as our new Development and Outreach Coordinator, and Yimao Yang as our Community Director. And we said goodbye to Danny Lang, who was in Liz's position. She got a great new job at the Driftless Area Land Conservancy in Dodgeville. Next slide. So we're thanking you all tonight because you do the work, you help make these things happen, you make the irreplaceable happen, the land that gets protected permanently and the connections of people to the land. So we want to share a couple of stories about some of the great things that you made possible this year. Next slide. So I am always very thankful for the conservation-minded landowners that we get to work with. Our work could not happen if people weren't willing to think about the future and their land tenure and how they can do great things for the community by protecting their land. We also have wonderful partners that make the world go round. We all get more bang for a buck when we work in partnerships because we help achieve the goals of several organizations and communities at once. Next slide, please. So I want to tell a little bit of story about our work this year in the Black Earth Creek. We have a 20-year history in Black Earth Creek Valley. Over that time, we've worked with about 13 different landowners and farm families to permanently protect 1,000 acres of land in the valley. We have helped the Village of Cross Plains add land to their Conservancy Park system at Hickory Hill. We protected 4 farms with conservation easements, and that's very important because that limits the amount of pavement and rooftops in the valley. As you might know, the Black Earth Creek is dependent upon groundwater, and the more pavement there is in the valley, the worse the water quality. So those conservation easements are very important. We also have secured land successfully for fishing along Vermont Creek and Garfoot Creek, and we created space for a really popular trail, the Wolf Run Trail, that connects Mesa Many with Wisconsin Heights School, and also made possible a fantastic restoration of a stretch of the stream there. So this year, we added 5 more acres to that landscape. Next slide, please. And this was a partnership between the landowner, the Ice Age Trail Alliance, and ourselves. And like I said, we get bigger bang for the buck when we work together. And I was very excited when the landowner and Ice Age Trail contacted us, Kevin Enthusiast, to talk about how we could work together. This is a picture of the mammoth's back. You can kind of imagine a woolly mammoth with a hump and a back and a head. And this is part of land that was protected. Next slide, please. So we have been really pleased to work with the Ice Age Trail Alliance several times. We helped create trail corridor at Muir County Park, up in Marquette County, and at the Indian Agency House in Columbia County. And now what we accomplished this past year, actually a year ago right now, was to jointly with Ice Age Trail Alliance protect 5 acres that Groundswell owns and 45 acres that the Ice Age Trail Alliance owns. Next slide, please. So some of you might recognize this figure. This is Otto Fesky. He was the mayor of Madison, and he and his wife Evelyn donated the land that became Fesky County Park, which overlooks the valley between Cross Plains and Black Earth. They have a history of conservation. Their daughters, Sue Heinlein and Cynthia Reagan, worked with us to put an easement on 80-acre of farmland in Hillside, really across the valley from Fesky County Park. And this latest deal was done with the estate of one of Otto's cousins, Frederick Fesky. The family really maybe wasn't ready to sell for conservation at that moment, but because it was an estate situation and one member of the family needed to cash out, needed to get cash from the estate, they decided they needed to sell their land. And because we had been in the valley for 20 years and because the Ice Age Trail has been working in the area for longer, they knew that we were around, they knew about us, and came to us to say, let's make this happen. So what your support does over the long run is helps us be in the right place at the right time so that we can take advantage of these situations, because sometimes conservation happens not really when a landowner plans it, but when some emergency comes up, like an estate, a death, or a divorce, or things like that. Next slide, please. So here is an aerial photograph. On the top is the village of Cross Plains, and Highway 14 and the railroad are running from the top left-hand corner, which is sort of towards the west, trending across the page to the southeast towards Middleton and Madison. And what was already protected was land that the DNR owns in kind of the light yellow in that area, and the Ice Age Trail owned a large wetland in the area. So working with the Fesky family, Groundswell purchased the 5 acres that is in red, and Ice Age purchased the 45 acres, which is outlined in blue. And this is what you see when you drive into Cross Plains from Middleton. As you enter that area, you'll see the big Village of Cross Plains pylon on the right-hand side of the road. That's right where this is. This took, and this will enable the trail to head south from Cross Plains down to the Ice Age Reserve and the Wilkie Gorge. It's one piece of the puzzle in there. The property that we bought is also in the boundary of the DNR fishery area and the Dane County natural resource area. So we're able to achieve several goals at one time. This deal took us 12 months, start to finish. So it happened in a really nice fashion for us. We're very proud of that. Next slide, please. So as Heidi mentioned, we've got a couple of door prizes to give away tonight. And we're going to do that by asking you to answer some questions and make your answers in the chat box. And then Tony's going to monitor the results, and we'll find out who the winner is. So the first prize is a delicious 9-piece box of chocolate from CocoVaa Chocolates. And the question is, I've been with Groundswell since 2003. What is the longest amount of time it has taken me to complete a project? 75 months, 94 months, 111 months, 123 months, or 132 months? And Tony is monitoring the answers
Well,
coming in.
a couple of people have gotten it correct, but Tom Wilson is the winner.
All right, Tom Wilson, congratulations. Tom is representing a lot of good things in the town of Westport tonight. This 132-month project is the Hanley acquisition in Patrick Marsh. On this photograph, this aerial photograph, it is the field, kind of tawny field, just above the trail and the wildlife viewing platform. Laura Hicklin and Laura from Dane County Parks and I first started talking to the landowner 12 years before we actually completed the deal. So congratulations, Tom. Now I'd like to introduce Yima Yang. Yima started working with us just in October, just 2 months ago, but I actually have been working with her for the past 2 years as we work to secure land for immigrant farmers and farmers of color, people who may not otherwise have access for land. Last year, our board adopted a new strategic plan, and one of our initiatives is to provide equitable access to land and water. So how can we get the benefits of land to more people in our community for all the good reasons people can need and enjoy land? And Yima is leading up our efforts to work with farmers of color and immigrant farmers and veterans groups and others who might not have good access to land for farming, but could definitely benefit from it. So I'll turn it over to Yima.
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Yima Yang, and I am the Community Director with Groundswell. I wanted to begin with thanking everybody, community partners, supporters, and farmers for coming together during a time of need. This year, when the pandemic hit, Hmong farmers were definitely left behind due to barriers in technology, communications, and language. So Groundswell supporters and community partners came together to provide us small, manageable, and friendly farmers market on the east side of Madison for Hmong farmers to sell their vegetables and flowers directly to consumers. The market opened on May 28th and ended for the season on September 24th. Next. This is some photos of the vegetables that were sold there. Go ahead, Heidi, next. Asparagus. Or more photos of the farmers. And then next. All right, so some of you might wonder, how did Groundswell become involved among farmers in the first place, right? So about 2 to 3 years ago, Groundswell bought the Westport Community Farm, which is a 10-acre farm in Waunakee, Wisconsin. And on this piece of land, there were already Hmong farmers that have been growing on this piece of land for the past 20 years. Since Groundswell bought the farm, they have been building a relationship with Hmong farmers. Next. And the second door prize, which is a bottle of red wine from Drumlin Ridge Winery. The winery is right around the corner from our Westport Farm and Prairie on River Road. So the question for this door prize is, what is the name of this root vegetable? Your options are A, jicama, B, loofah, or C, taro.
So the winner here, it's Steve Conkle, and I'm going to give it to him, even though he said himica. Did you get it, Steve?
Close. All right, so the answer is jicama. Next, I give you my colleague, Heidi.
I have to unmute. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. I am Heidi Habecker, Director of Major and Planned Gifts. And despite the pandemic, one of the programs that we were very fortunate to move forward with this year was our Prairie Partners program. And so I want to thank the crew and everyone that was involved with this program this year. Each of our 3 different partners, Madison Audubon Society, the Friends of Cherokee Marsh, and the Friends of Pheasant Branch Conservancy, along with us, had the crew 1 day a week doing restoration work out on their preserves. We actually joined this program back in 2012. That's Caleb Porchot, who would take turns with Jim Welsh being out on the land with the crew, which usually makes up about 5 or so college students in this restoration ecology internship program. And they are working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, rain or shine, in extreme heat, battling mosquitoes, out there doing some really incredible restoration work. And this year we got to work with one of the partners is the Friends of Cherokee Marsh. They replaced the UW Lakeshore Nature Preserve, who is normally one of our partners, but was unable to participate this year. And what you see in this picture is what used to be a wonderful pond at Cherokee Marsh. And students used to be able to lay on these boards called belly boards and look into the pond at all the tiny little things like tadpoles and minnows. But as you can see, unfortunately, it got taken over by invasive cattails. And so this year, Mary Binkley, who was working with the crew one day a week at Cherokee Marsh, had them in one afternoon tackle all of those invasive cattails, and look at how much they accomplished. So this is the wonderful thing about this program, about this crew. They're young and they want to be doing this work and learning these skills, and they're capable of doing this very hard restoration work, and they get so much accomplished. So we had the crew actually 2 days a week. My colleague BJ Byers was out with them on Mondays at Westport Prairie. And this photo here is a great example of their successes out there. What you can see here is them tackling some invasive shrubs, mainly sumac and honeysuckle and box elder here at this section of the drumlin. And they were able to accomplish this all in just one afternoon. And they were able to treat all of the stumps and stems so that there was no resprouting. So then on Tuesdays, BJ would have the crew out at Patrick Marsh, which is on the doorstep of Sun Prairie. And BJ would jokingly call this Parsnip Marsh. And fortunately, by the end of the summer, the crew was so proud of all of their work getting rid of the wild parsnip using what you see here called a parsnip predator. And then on the south side of Patrick Marsh, over by Derby Drive entrance, there was a new culvert that was put in this year. And this replaced what used to be a very muddy and flooded area. And this project was led by a volunteer, Bill Dunlap, and it was actually constructed by the city of Sun Prairie. And then the Prairie Partners crew topsoiled and seeded it for us. So at the end of the day, we are just so incredibly grateful for these interns and the supporters like yourselves and the sponsors that make this crew possible every year. And I also want to do a special shout out tonight to Norm and Carol Oliva, who provided funds for some new tools and supplies this year. So my door prize today, you can win a 2021 State Park sticker, is if you can tell us which groundswell staffer used to be a Prairie Partners intern.
All right, so it is Pat Arndorfer, and she's correct in saying it's the less follically challenged version of me, right there in the middle of that photo.
Yes, Tony, he was an intern for us back in 2013. And like Tony, what's great is that so many of these interns have gone on to get full-time jobs in the environmental sector. So not only is it a great program for us to get a lot of work done, but it's also a great way for these students to learn very important hands-on experience out in the field. So we do plan for 2021 to have a crew to be a part of the program again, and we'll be working with our partners to post those job positions in January. So stay posted. And so now I will turn it over to Tony Abate himself.
Thanks, Heidi. Let's get the next slide up. Awesome. So I wanted to thank some of the teachers that I've been working with. So as Heidi just said, my name is Tony Abate. I'm the community conservationist at Groundswell. One of the cool aspects of my job is I get to help connect people to local special places, places like Westport Prairie and Patrick Marsh, places you might be familiar with, and try and inspire a love of the outdoors. And some of those people that I'm inspiring a love or trying to inspire the love of the outdoors in are students. And my theory is, my working theory so far is, if people don't love a place or know it exists, they're not going to work to protect it. So next slide, Heidi. Thank you. So this map just shows some of the schools that we're working with in the area. So at Westport Prairie, you can see in yellow on the left side of your map, and Patrick Marsh is on the right side of your map in blue. So at these two places, we're working with nearby schools to restore the land and make these places more special places. So you can see on the left side, we're working with Wanakee High School at Westport Prairie. And on the right side of the map, we're working with Westside Elementary School, Patrick Marsh Middle School, and Prairie Phoenix Academy to make Patrick Marsh a more special place. We're also working with two community schools on the north side of Madison. to help create special places at the schools. And those two schools are Lakeview Elementary School and Mendota Elementary School. So I just want to share with you two inspiring projects that we've been working on this year that were not possible without several heroic teachers. Next slide. Great. So this slide is a photo of a block party at Mendota Elementary School from 2018. So this is a project where we are working on creating a special place at the school. So Groundswell is part of the Mendota Green team at Mendota Elementary School, and this team includes teachers, students, parents, PTO members, and we're working to create a green schoolyard at the school, which removes some of the barriers to teaching and learning outside. Next slide. So as you can see, just looking at this photo, I've marked out some of the areas that are now in our landscape plan for the green schoolyard, but there's not a lot going on out there. Not a lot of opportunity to connect with the outdoors. There's no shade, not much natural environment at all. And that previous photo was showing you, we worked with students, their families, teachers, and community members to help us decide how to create a better schoolyard. And so far we have developed a landscape plan for these areas that are colored. And we're developing a curriculum plan that'll make it easier for teachers to know what to do outside. And we've been working on creating some inspiring projects that build community and school support. And one of the first things we did was we planted 14 trees out there to get a little shade for the students when they're out there. Next slide, Heidi. Great, so this is a photo of a rain garden that we installed near the front entrance of the school. So we've been working on creating inspiring projects that help create more support for the work that we're doing. We also expanded a vegetable garden that's also by the front entrance. And like I said, this is just trying to help build support for more projects like this and more support for the green schoolyard. So next photo. And this year, the big story here is we got a garden shed delivered to Mendota, and it doesn't look like much, but this shed is going to help maintain the schoolyard. It's going to help maintain the rain garden. It's going to help maintain the vegetable garden. Both the shed and the rain garden are projects that required school district and City of Madison approval. And these were huge barriers that the green team worked through. It's a complicated and unclear process. But we got these things approved and installed at the school so that hopefully future schools don't have to work through this process so hard, and they have an example to look at. So next slide, and we'll talk about the other project that we've been working on. Great. So this second project is about connecting two schools to nearby Patrick Marsh. So Patrick Marsh is a great place for hiking, bird watching, and learning about the natural world. And you see a lot of that in BJ's phenology emails. Some people, though, connect with nature in different ways. Some people do like to just read a phenology email. Other people might want to connect to Patrick Marsh in another way. One way that we've been thinking about a lot and working on a project for is connecting to nature through art. So you can, next photo, Heidi. So this is a photo of a Westside Elementary School student who doesn't look so thrilled, but she's working on creating a wire sculpture of a possible sculpture that could be installed at Patrick Marsh not middle school, but just Patrick Marsh. So early in the year, we worked with students at Westside Elementary and Prairie Phoenix Academy before COVID to come up with a design for an art sculpture that could be installed at Patrick Marsh. And as you can see, this little girl is working on a flower sculpture. There were lots of different cool ideas created by collaboration between the Prairie Phoenix Academy and Westside. Next photo. But ultimately, you can see the example of the sculpture in the background. This is the sculpture that will be installed on the south side of Patrick Marsh. They came up with the idea of a phoenix. So the phoenix, this is a metal sculpture. The phoenix represents many things to them, including second chances and a reminder to take it. Cool thing about this sculpture is natural materials can be woven into the bottom part of the sculpture and be burned at the end of the year. The students said represent the burning away burning the materials represents burning away negative feelings, emotions, and experiences. Pictured here is Don Schmidt. Don Schmidt is a metal artist, a conservation easement landowner in the town of Dunn, and a good friend of mine. And Don has helped bring this idea to life. So he's been great to work with too, alongside the teachers at these schools. And the sculpture, like I said, will be installed on the south side of Patrick Marsh. That will happen next spring. So I wanted to thank many of the teachers who have helped make these collaborations possible. And a lot of these teachers are operating silently under the idea that I've heard from one of them, Vince Brandel at Patrick Marsh Middle School, that this year is a year of creativity. And there are lots of teachers that are working on really creative projects and doing really cool things and just making things happen, even in a year where you might think community collaboration would stall. So I'd like to, let's do my question for everybody. So I want to know, for pottery made by one of our board members, Mary Binkley, in which mythology can the phoenix be found? And there's a lot of different answers, and I'm going to give it to Susan Jeanette. So it's actually found in many mythologies. So it shows up in many different religions: Greek, Egyptian, Chinese, Persian, Native American, a lot of different mythologies. I was looking for many of them, but pretty much the first answer gets it. So I want to introduce, next up we have Liz Pelton. She joined our team this year during COVID. I don't envy her, having to join during COVID, during a time when it's hard to meet your coworkers and get a feel for who they are. But Liz has been a great team member and person to work with.
Thank you, Tony. I'm very happy to be on the Groundswell team. And again, my name is Liz Pelton. I'm the Development and Outreach Coordinator here at Groundswell. And today I want to talk about two very special volunteers that I've had the pleasure of working with. On the left there is Karen Smythe, and on the right is Marilyn Ketterer. Next slide. So what comes to mind when you hear the term conservation hero? You might think of a famous environmentalist like Rachel Carson, who wrote Silent Spring. Or you might think of people doing hard physical labor, like this football team from Memorial High School, and they were helping us build a trail at Lakeview Elementary. You might also think of people braving the elements out in harsh conditions. Or you might think of a bunch of nature lovers fist pumping. But when I think of conservation heroes, I think of these two wonderful ladies. Marilyn and Karen have been dedicated volunteers with Groundswell since 2014. Each of them have logged hundreds of volunteer hours with our organization, and they help us out by hand addressing our fundraising appeals in the mail. So they get kind of a special touch with their handwritten addresses, and they also help us by stuffing and stamping all our mailings. And they recently helped with an especially large mailing for our year-end appeal, which is really important for our fundraising efforts here at Groundswell. And they hand addressed over 1,000 envelopes for us. So I just have a huge amount of gratitude for both these ladies. They are so positive, they're flexible, easy to work with. Especially in COVID times when I have to drop off big packages of letters and stamps and envelopes at their houses. They're just always in good moods, and I feel very lucky to have them. And they also have beautiful cursive handwriting here, as you can see. So my question for another door prize, next slide. And the prize you will win is a homemade pie made by me in a flavor of your choosing. So how long does it take our two volunteers to hand address just over 1,000 envelopes? A, 7 hours, B, 10 hours, C, 13 hours, or D, 21 hours?
It looks like Barb Irvin is the winner.
Excellent, Barb. I'll be in touch about your favorite pie flavor. And next up, I'm going to introduce my colleague, BJ Byers. BJ, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm BJ Byers, conservationist at Groundswell Conservancy. I do a lot of the land management and habitat restoration work on some groundswell lands. I'd like to give a special thanks to the John C. Bach Foundation. They've awarded Groundswell 2 pretty wonderful grants in the last 2 years. Both of these grants are being put towards habitat restoration projects at Patrick Marsh. And for those unfamiliar with Patrick Marsh, my next slide here shows a map of the wildlife area. It's kind of zoomed out a little bit, but located just outside of Sun Prairie, and you can see 151 right there, just south of that. Patrick Marsh it's got wetland, it's got prairie, oak savanna, mixed hardwood. It's got all the habitat types. It's a pretty remarkable place to visit, really any time of year. The area in blue that you see is owned by the DNR, but managed by us at Groundswell. We also own everything in purple. So the main focus of these grants is to make Patrick Marsh just a more inviting and enjoyable place to visit, as well as to restore native oak savanna habitat, which is actually one of the fastest declining habitat types in the world. Next slide, please. So here we've got a 1937 aerial image of Patrick Marsh. Circled on each side of the marsh are large groups of oak trees. You can see them look like little polka dots, sort of. Many of those trees are actually still standing today, and we'd really like to keep it that way. Over the years, we've got younger, faster growing weedy trees that have started taking over and shading out the old oaks. This causes many of the branches to fall off, and in some cases, even killing the oaks. So that's where these grants from the John C. Bach Foundation come in. All of last year's grant funds went towards restoring the oak woodland on the east side of the marsh, circled in yellow, by clearing out the invasive trees and treating the stumps so that they don't grow back. So after the trees were removed, we followed it up with some oak savanna plant species that we planted in there. Next slide, please. Here's a little before and after photo of some of the work done out there. You can see all the large box elders that were removed. Shortly after this photo was taken, we went out with a bunch of volunteers to throw that seed that I was talking about. So all of that seemingly bare soil out there was covered with seed. Next slide, sorry. So here's another shot of the same area. It's from the other side. Just a week later, it had snowed, so but it's starting to look really nice out there. You can see some of these old oaks. You can sort of tell on some of the lower branches that they look dead, and that's from the trees that were shading them out previously. So I'm glad we were able to get in there using John C. Bach funds to remove a lot of those trees. Next slide. There we go. So hopefully this works. I set up a trail cam that captured the work that was done over the course of 4 days or so. Go back. Don't give away my answers here. So let's see if the time lapse works. This is all done with a trail cam. Shout out to Quercus who did the work out there. You can see their skid steer and they're burning a bunch of the brush piles. So again, once these trees were cleared, we followed it up by planting out there, and it's starting to look pretty good. So again, going back to the map of Patrick Marsh, all the work that I just showed you was done on the east side of the marsh. This year's grant that was awarded by the John C. Bach Foundation is essentially doing very similar work, but on the west side of the marsh around the kettle pond. We're opening up the oak savanna, saving these really old oaks from being shaded out. Also just above the kettle pond, you can sort of see, the map's kind of small, I apologize for that. But on the top left in orange, there's a bunch of ag land that Groundswell recently purchased. And in the fall of 2021, we're going to be planting the whole thing to prairie so that we can expand the habitat out at Patrick Marsh and make it an even better place. Also in the bottom there, you can sort of see the yellow small circle on the south side. That's where the sculpture, the Phoenix sculpture that Tony had mentioned, that's where that's going to be placed. So the idea is you might be able to see it from when you're hiking down the trail, like if it were to be burning, which would be a pretty cool sight. Next slide. So my final slide here is dedicated to our trusty outdoor volunteers who get eaten by mosquitoes in the summer, trudge through knee-deep snow in the winter. They're always happy, mostly always happy to be getting their hands dirty. You can see volunteers in the background burning some brush piles and getting ready to plant a few acres of oak savanna and prairie seed. And that's what's filling the bags in the sled right there. I'm convinced that if we didn't have the outpouring of community support that we have at Patrick Marsh, we probably wouldn't be awarded grants like these. So, you know, our volunteers ensure that long after these grant funds have been spent, you know, the boots on the ground restoration efforts will continue. And with that, I've got a pop quiz for myself. You know, the final door prize, before you all get to answering, I've actually got 5 questions, and it's only the last one that is worth a, what is it, a $25 gift card to Fontana Sports Specialties. So these are just going to be the primer questions. So what species of caterpillar is this? Tiger swallowtail, tomato hornworm, lutemoth, or monarch? See a lot of responses here. This one is a tomato hornworm, and I'm not sure who entered it in first, but I know that we can look that up. So what species of snake is this? On to the next question. Bull snake, eastern hognose, garter, or fox? That is a fox snake, and it was caught by a Prairie Partner intern this past summer at Westport Prairie. Next one. What caused these holes? This is a tree. Is it the emerald ash borer, yellow-bellied sapsucker, bark beetles, or termites? Yep, yellow-bellied sapsucker is the correct response. One more primer question, and then we move on to the actual door prize here. This is just to see if you guys have been paying attention to my phenology emails each month. Some of these photos have been showcased. So what species of turtle? Blandings, ornate box, musk, or mud? And the only reason there's a person holding this turtle is because it was crossing the street and my wife picked it up to move it so it wouldn't get run over. It is a Blandings turtle. All right, final one. What species of caterpillar is this? Tiger swallowtail, sphinx, cecropia, or monarch?
So the first person to get it who did not already win a prize is Paul Dearlove.
All right, congrats. This is a photo I took a couple years ago, actually, but that's what the cecropia moth caterpillar turns into in its final stage. Pretty remarkable little thing. Big thing, I guess. So now I'll turn it back over to Heidi.
Heidi, you are muted.
I knew I was going to be the person that was going to do that this evening. I think my husband wishes I would use that mute button more often. Okay, well, what I was trying to say is that all of these accomplishments that we've shared with you this evening were all made possible because of you and your support. And we truly can't thank you enough for caring and giving to protect our special places forever. Conservation really doesn't happen by accident. We say that all the time. It is individuals like you who are our main source of funding and our largest source of funding who make it really all a reality. We would, of course, much rather be celebrating with you tonight in person as we have in the past. Certainly Zoom is nowhere near to being the same or sufficient. So thank you so much for bearing with us tonight. I know we're all experiencing a little bit of Zoom fatigue. So whatever it was that you did this year with Groundswell, if it was a gift for the first time, or if you've been a longtime supporter, or whether your support came in the form of time or expertise, we are truly so very grateful for all that you've done. So a heartfelt thank you from Jim, Yimwa, Tony, BJ, Liz, our board of directors, and myself. We truly feel very fortunate to be able to work for this organization and do this work, and we hope that you feel the same way too. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen so that you can see all of us. And just know how thankful we all are, the 6 of us and our board members. And just know that we are hopeful that in 2012, we are all able to get out together again on the land. And that in the meantime, we hope that you stay safe and that you can get outside safely. And know that we just hope to see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Thank you for all the nice compliments.
Comments are still rolling in.
Yep. Oh, good to see you, Nan. Thanks for joining us.
Liz, we could probably stop recording at this point.
Good call. We were right on time, 45 minutes.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Pat Wendy. Thanks, Robbie.